Hey there, everybody. Welcome to the podcast. So today, we actually have a very, very interesting guest with us because previously we already spoke to a lot of NFT project founders. We also spoke to DeFi protocol founders, and we spoke to a Bored Ape as well, talking about what they think about the space, how long have they been in. But now let's just change the context, and we have a little interesting questions here, right? So let's get started with the intro, Arvin. So tell us about yourself, tell us what you do, and let's get rolling.
All right, awesome. So my name is Arvin. I've been in the marketing space for about 10 years and started working with small businesses, blogging and doing influencing for like health companies first, and then worked my way into working with public companies for investor relationship marketing and also product marketing. And then 2016, when I learned about crypto through a good friend of mine, Nick, and 2021 is when I did my first sellout of a collection. And after that first collection, which was for a one-of-one artist from Italy, I essentially put up a gig on a bunch of freelance platforms that say, hey, listen, I'm doing this. And since then, I worked with 400 plus NFT projects. Some sold out, some didn't. The ones that sold out, some of them are still flourishing, some of them are just like gone to zero, as it goes with any other projects in this space.
Got it, got it. And one thing that you're pretty confident about sharing with the people is you have worked with 400 projects, and some of them have also gone to zero. And I've spoken to a lot of marketers, but a lot of marketers say that I've been working with 10 projects, and all 10 were great. None of them failed. They're all live. None of them were rugs and everything, right? So why though? Why are you so confident about that? And is it always the case? Will projects fail? Is it a thing?
So I mean, that's like a long conversation to just talk about, okay, the evolution of the NFT space from, let's say, November, December of 2021 to Q1 of 2022. And then now, like after the Luna crash happened. But there were several projects, large projects that I worked with. One of them like hit #1 trending on OpenSea. I don't want to name them, but their floor price right now is 0.01, right? And so they've obviously they're almost like going to zero. And they're still going, they're still delivering on their promises. So that's cool. Like they're not rugging or anything, but the floor price is really low. Now that specific project, I passed their sell, and lots of other projects passed their sellout. I did not work with them, so I don't actually agree with the ways that they handle the marketing of the project past the sellout. Up until sellout, that's what I work with. Partly because back then I didn't even know what to do with projects past the sellout, so I just wasn't working. And partly because they had that specific project, they had different vision for marketing than I did. And we simply couldn't align. So they hired that company. They talked about it even on a Twitter space. They said they're so excited about this company that they hired to pass the sellout, just take them to the moon. And then they went to almost zero. So that's just what happened. But then there's that's as far as specific projects that I worked with, but also a lot of projects. So cryptos, they've gone down since November by almost 70%. And then NFTs have gone down by 40 to 70%. So there's that too, that's happening. But not every project should go down. Not every project should go to zero. There are ways to actually help bring them back up. But certainly it's not just also if you just sell out, then you're going to be fine for the rest of your project. You could go to zero. So.
Yep. So I think that's very interesting, Arvin. So would you be able to tell us what your journey has been? Because you were into marketing even before the NFT hype happened, and the entire evolution of NFTs happened. So what do you think is the difference between marketing in Web 2 and marketing in Web 3, and if any?
Yeah, so example that I give to people is if you think about going to Adidas store and you want to buy a t-shirt, you look at the t-shirt and you're like, okay, cool. I kind of like it, but I don't want to buy it today. You come back 6 months later, you buy that same Adidas t-shirt from that physical store. Versus Adidas, for example, they have their own NFTs as well. That's not the case, right? So if you buy it in a time frame that they give you, like, and sometimes for project is like minutes, right? If you bought it, you bought it. If you didn't, done. You cannot buy that right
Okay.
now. You can probably go into the marketplace, buy it at like extraordinary, like astronomical numbers, as you know, the floor price sometimes goes up, but the concept of buying and the psychology of buying is very different in web 2 versus web 3. The channels that you use to market a product on web 2 versus like NFTs on web 3 are very different.
Okay.
Real life example, I went to an event, NFT event in Vancouver, Canada, where I currently am right now. There was this project. It's a cannabis project. They wanted to. They thought if they do a real life event, they can just bring laptops and iPads to people and just have them connect their wallet, buy the NFTs. And now, like these days, you can with Minted or MoonPay, you can even buy NFTs from like with your credit card. You don't even have to connect wallet. But regardless, they thought they can sell their NFTs in a real life event like IRL, and they couldn't. They did zero, right?
Okay.
And that's one of the channels that people think like web 2 works. So then it must work in web 3. It doesn't. It's just not the case, right? So real life events, that's not a thing. And for web 3, you need to have Discord, you need to have Twitter. Now there's like projects like Goblin Town where they're like, we don't care about those, or like no K-Bears didn't even have a Discord, right? But that's the nature of the web 3 versus web 2. It's like different channels that they used to. And then also the target market is very different. So on the web 2, you're just targeting web 2 people, versus web 3, you target web 2 and you target web 3 as well, which means you got to do different things for those people. Like web 2 people, they're not jaded, they don't know anything about cryptos, maybe they don't know anything about crashes happen, sometimes they don't even know there's a bear market, right? Versus like web 3, they know all that. Like they know about Discord grind, they know about like grinding for getting a whitelist. So like your narrative has to be very specific to them, right? So that web 3 marketing is very different to just like product marketing in web 2. So those are some of the big reasons why these are different. There are other things too, but those are some big ones.
Got it. So you'd say the approach is also different, right? Because I mean, when you're talking to crypto natives, you want them to have a community, you want them to come together on Discord, on Spaces, constantly engage with each other, and talk about what the project is about. So this question that I always had was, so just wanted your perspective on this is, a lot of projects, they promise a lot. A lot of projects, they promise a lot, and then after the mint, they're gone, right? So basically talking about undocs guys. So what's your perspective on people who who don't want to dox themselves, and don't want to be out there, and they're just using a pseudonymous name, which is completely okay in the web3 space, but it has consequences how people view it.
Yeah.
So what do you think?
If people actually, depends when they're watching this, but if they go on YouTube or iTunes and just type out my name, like Arvin Khamseh or Arvin K NFT, they can see beginning of this year, 2022, I literally called this. I said, hey, by let's say let's say 6 months into this year, we're not gonna have any team that are not doxed. And we are already seeing that, like, it just doesn't work. Like people like, no, like we just do not accept that in this community anymore. And that's true for like Solana, that's true for ETH, that's true for like even Cardano and like other blockchains as well. So we go in that direction, but it's still like, I mean, out of 400-ish projects, there's been about 4 or 5 of them that they rugged. And so it's still pretty good ratio, but it does happen. So people sometimes unintentionally, sometimes intentionally, they come in and just rug. So I mean, I'm not the police of the internet. I can't fix that. I help people with marketing. So yeah, sometimes I get associated with those things as well. Like, people saying like, why did you get involved? It's like, how would you know? Like, put yourself in my place.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct.
So
Totally understand. So what's your take on floor prices, right? And one, I don't know if it's just asking you out is I mean, asking it right away. It is, do all projects that you work with sustain, or do they fail, and does that have any impact on your goodwill? Let's say I I say, there's a project working with Arvin, and is it guaranteed to do good? If
No,
if Okay.
no, actually, it's not. And I tell people too, like, and it's actually, I have a disclaimer on my website too. It's like there's no guarantee.
Okay.
Like, in fact, for people, like, this is like so this is sometimes people, this in the Web3 space, this is their first time actually like doing transactions on the internet. This is their first business. What they're not
Correct,
realizing is
correct,
like
correct.
95% of businesses, startups, they go out of business in 5 years. So what is it that makes people in the Web3 space thinking they're all just going to do absolutely fine? Like that's just not the case.
Mhm.
Like, and the startups have been around for many, many years. Web3 space hasn't been around that long. And even this NFT, like the first NFT that people know is CryptoPunks in
Mhm.
2017. The first NFT that was actually created was like a few years before that. So it's not that long. It's not even a decade, right? And so but like startups, like they've been around for so long. And one of the things like I sometimes get like kind of, I guess I have rants about is that people call, like they throw around words like scheme, like Ponzi scheme or like
Yeah,
scam or like all
yeah.
sorts of things to these projects when they never like, if you say the same, like first of all, it doesn't help the project, it doesn't help the project, it doesn't help the space neither. Sure, if like you got scammed from a project, go tell people so they don't get a scam. Like that's not what I'm talking about. But
Mhm.
the fact that people saying like from their feelings or their opinions a project is a scam,
Mhm.
or when a project makes mistake and they call it a scam, first of all, it just normalizes a scam, which is not
Yeah,
good. Second of
yeah,
all, if that's the case, like all these startups that went to zero, like and all the money they got from VCs and investors went to nothing, they're all the
correct.
scams. And that's not the case. It's
Yeah.
just that we don't have that much of scam going on. Like it's just a made up thing we just came up with in Web3 space. So it's almost like for entertainment purposes, on Twitter, people say things and then now started believing it themselves. This, so that's like the direction it has gone.
Correct, correct. So, because you've been in the space for a long time and, you've worked with around 400 projects. So what's your take on like people, forging board apes, right? Though they don't own those apes. And I mean, right now, yeah, of course, Twitter has a way of validating your PFP. But then, there was a time, right? Just like 4 months ago, there was a time when people just forged these board apes and sometimes even made that a fake identity, came onto spaces, spoke as well. They kind of connected with their audience as well. But then when you see it, it was a slow rug. But now, if on the flip side, there are free projects, right? The mint is for free, and they're not delivering anything, and they don't have to because the mint is for free, and they're making money on royalties. So how do you think that's going to play out?
So I guess that's like two questions. One is like
Yeah.
people who are just using these I guess NFT PFPs that they don't own. So profile, like on the profile pictures that they don't own.
Yeah.
And is that good? Is that not good? So obviously it's not good. Like don't do it. I have a lot of NFTs. I have probably about 50 more NFTs, 50 plus
Hmm.
NFTs. And I don't even show it on my Twitter. On my Discord, I have it. Like I have a Grateful Tuna from like VFriends. But that, like, I don't show any of my NFTs to people. That's just
Okay.
like personally what I like. I'll show my face. But the people, a lot of people do that. Like, they have like board apes or whatever they have. And that's fine. And sometimes they don't have it and then they abuse that, or even like blue check, like sometimes people abuse that, right? So I think
Yes.
that's just more of an individual problem than the space problem. And then, but also like that goes to say people should really look past these like stupid things, like the their feelings and opinions about things, should actually like do proper research, right? So like
Research.
someone's with a board ape profile picture saying something that doesn't make it like true. um and that's I think that's the impression a lot of people get too. Like it's really like one of the things that I just get like really annoyed with sometimes. It's like people tell me like on like in my comments, they said like this big Discord groups, people were talking about this. I'm like, so what? Like big Discord groups, they can talk about whatever they want. That doesn't make it right. You know what I mean? So I think there are definitely like people who flex what they have to prove their point instead
Okay.
of proving their points with evidence.
Evidence, correct.
And yeah, and that's like that's the biggest beef I have like with Web3 folks. Is always like in my comments or like things like people just talk about all sorts of things that they feel. I'm like, but who cares? Like you can feel up whatever you want.
Yeah, yeah,
Do
yeah.
you have any data in what you're
Show the
saying, right? So
fundamentals.
yeah, so that's that. That's as far as that. So I think it's obviously on the individual side they shouldn't do it, but like on our side, we should not care about like someone having a really cool or like or even someone who made a lot of money in this space. That doesn't make them that doesn't make them that doesn't make that doesn't compensate for opinion the lack of evidence that they have for their opinion, right? So that's what I would say. But also like I would say even like so for example length of time someone has spent in this space, right? People
Okay.
like sometimes they say I've been in this since 2015. Okay, cool, but what have you done since
Yeah,
2015, right? So
yeah.
like November and December I was sleeping 2 hours a day just because I was with clients, right? What were you doing? Right? Were you just like focused on your Christmas presents that you're gonna get your friends? Like that doesn't
Correct.
make it like just just because I've been in the space for so long doesn't make it like you doesn't make your opinion like better. So and doesn't make it worse neither. I'm just saying, right? So like we just we ourselves we need to like have a high standard for like data versus things around data, like the
Perfect,
profile
perfect.
picture, the blue check, the followers, the projects I've worked with, what people like say about me, like all that shit, right? So
Correct,
so
correct,
that's
correct.
yeah,
I want to interrupt you there, Arvin.
cool.
So, because what you actually spoke about is really profound, right? Because it all boils down to social proof. When we see someone with a blue check, you put them on a pedestal. When you see someone with a board ape, you put them on a pedestal, and you even sometimes blindly follow them instead of looking at the stats, looking at the fundamentals. I just wanted to add to what you were saying, and which is very, very important. And if for someone who's entering the space, it's very important for them to understand, and not just go with people who say, I've been in this space for like 4 years, I'm an OG. Yeah, so
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, this is really funny. So I lost my blue check for a few days,
I've
and then there's
seen
some
that actually.
yeah. So and then
Last
people
week when I
yeah
yeah, yeah. So last week when I checked, when we were having conversation, I knew you had a verified account, but then
yeah
last week you did. So I was
yeah.
confused. I thought it was a glitch. So
So
tell us what
yeah, and
happened.
then I still don't know. Like I spoke with Twitter this morning. Like I was on call with
Okay.
them, but I still don't know why. But like some of the reasons usually people lose it is because if you change your username or like if your bio is different now all of a sudden, or like sometimes you get a push notification from Twitter saying like, "Are you a human?" If you don't actually reply, then they
Okay.
don't know you're a human. They just like cut it. But I don't know what happened, but it's really funny. First of all, a bunch of things happened. There were people that were commenting on my stuff. They're like, "Oh, see, like he's not verified anymore because like he was talking about this project." I was like, "Nope, it has nothing to do with that. Like this again, like just your feelings and opinions about things, right?" So I have
Correct.
it
Correct.
back now as we speak, right? It's only took like a
Yeah.
few days. But also another funny thing that happened. So there's some people run ads on my ad account,
Okay.
and so like their projects, and then um they told me, they said this is what they believe. I don't know if this is true because we're gonna now find out, because now that I've got it back again, we're gonna find out. But
Okay.
they told me when I had the blue check, the conversion on the ads were higher for them versus when I didn't have
Wow.
the blue check. Um,
Wow.
yeah, which is stupid. Like, so it's not so look, it's not Twitter's fault. It's actually people's fault if that's the case.
Correct.
Like, it's just
Correct. Correct.
it's just
Correct.
like you see someone with a lab coat, you immediately think like they're a doctor. Like that's not the case. Like you
The
need to
halo
actually,
effect.
yeah. There's the halo effect. There's also like another they did this like it's like a psychology. There's a documentary about this. Like
Okay.
and it's like actually connected to like how people were following orders like for like in like Nazi camps, right? Like
Okay.
the sense of authority that you create. They did it, I think, in like Hopkins. I think it was like a Hopkins project or whatever it was called. But anyways,
Okay.
but the concept is like if you see authority, then you just like know like something is true, which shouldn't be. Like you should like always question, but you shouldn't also like go the other way of the spectrum and be like, oh, if someone with a blue check saying something, then they must be like after their own bags. Like that's also not true. You should just always actually do research. Because I think like we're
Correct.
like humans are like cognitive miser, they call them.
Correct.
We always want to just like go with this like a we want to spend the least amount of energy on actually like I guess cognitive energy that we can spend. So like we
Correct.
want to
Correct.
like reduce them that amount. So we go with things like that, right? So we start judging out of things like that.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's true, but in a few days I'm gonna find out if the conversion goes back up again. That means literally the only change was my blue check. And then now like that's how like people basing their I guess basing their vote on the
Yeah.
project's success based on my
Yeah.
blue check.
Yeah.
So
So Arvin, why don't you tell us about the running ads, right? Because Gary Vee already, talks a lot about build your community first and then launch your PFP. But then, is running ads even a good thing for NFT projects?
yeah, so I run a lot of ads. So just for people's context, I have over the past 30 days, I had about 600K profile visits on
Got
my
it. Got it.
account.
Got it.
And I
Got
have
it.
about 10,000 followers. And I
Correct.
also had about 10 million impression over the last 30 days on my account.
Correct.
Just because of ads mostly. And also because of the ads that have been running, I guess they're like sometimes like it's been running to like people who have like strong opinions about things and they're just kind of like polarizing. So people just like
Hmm.
getting excited and finding entertaining. But anyways, so that's to say, first of all, it's not a guy from a diner just talking about ads. And plus
Yeah.
also,
Yeah.
again, I've worked with public companies running their ads, if even Fortune 500 companies running their ads. So I've done a lot of ads, right? So that's the concept.
Yes.
Now,
Yes.
the sentiment of some, I guess, portion of the NFT population is that if you run ads, that's a red flag. And I'm
Correct.
yet to see one evidence behind this crazy concept that they're speaking so highly of. And I actually like challenge anyone's listening to this. Invite me to a
Yep.
debate
Yep.
on a Twitter space. I like to gather evidence and I like them to gather evidence. Let's have like a like amazing debate on what makes a project like what does this have anything to do with a project being a
Hmm.
rug pull or a not rug pull if you do advertising. Because and I tell you some of the reasons. um
Hmm.
Products, services have done like owners of I guess products and services have done advertising for centuries. Like I mean even like the first ad is like back in like centuries ago where like someone would write like I'm gonna find the actual thing but would write about their shop, which is
Okay.
like talking about like they so there was I think it's like the history of ads if someone actually looks into this.
Hmm.
I vaguely remember, but like basically someone just lost some money and they said if
Okay.
they find it, they should come and return it to this really, really cool store. And then literally that was just like the way they were advertising their store, right?
Wow.
And
Wow.
this is centuries ago, right? So the concept that people were talking about, they're like advertising is like evil or like and like so in nature, for example, like snake that has like specific colors on their body, they're
Hmm.
advertising specific characteristics if they're like gonna be the for the venom and also like how dangerous they are. Frogs,
Correct.
for
Correct. Correct.
example, like in nature we see this all the time, like bees looking at the flowers that they want to like pollinate with, right? So like advertising being evil, that's just so naive to say, first of all. So that's that,
Hmm.
right? That's that concept. The
Yeah.
second thing people talk about, they say, okay, but it's signs that a project is not doing well. But okay, so if a project is amazing project, but no one knows about this project, how good is that? Like, how good is this that to for a
Yes.
project to be so
That makes
amazing, but
sense.
no one knows about it, right? So now could projects that are rug pull do advertising? Sure. projects that rug pull do all the other things too. Like that has no, like, they're like mutually exclusive events. And people just connecting these and just say, oh, if you're running ads, so that must be a scam, or that must be a rug pull. And literally zero evidence, none. And I even wanted to see stats, like how many of the projects that are even like running ads are actually a scam. Like, does anyone know that? Like where is that, like, conversation coming from? Which just like someone on Discord must have said this, and then everyone's just like, seems right. Like, I believe
Exactly. Exactly.
right? And that's how it went on. So just like how, like, why is it that we always do like 10,000 collection size? It's just because like CryptoPunks did 10,000. Why are we not just doing like 11,000, right?
Correct.
You know what I mean? Like, that's just like these random things that just got created in this space, and then people are just thinking about, or like, why is it that, for example, we need to have like utilities right now? So like there are artists out there that they don't have utilities. Why are we forcing them to have utilities? Like, they don't want to have utilities, right? Just like Goblin Town, where they were like, we're not going to have any utilities. I think that's fine. Like, I think some projects going to have zero utilities, and that should be fine. But as long as they communicate it and they say, hey, look, we can't afford to have utilities, we don't want to do utilities, we don't care about it, it's fine. Like, that's just your project, that's what it is. Like, some people are just going to be interested in that because of your art, because of your people, whatever reason, right? But like, when people start actually forcing things and like be like, okay, I'm an artist, I don't have any utilities, so I'm going to just say I'm going to do some merch, and I'm going to do some like exclusive events, which I don't even know what they are, but I'm going to call it out just so people, and I'm going to do something in metaverse, so just people buy my project. That's the problem we have in this space. But that's when like things start like being diluted. That's when like this space like scanning, you know.
Correct. So I think advertising, the part about advertising that you said, I think is correct, right? Because what's the point of having a project and people not even knowing about it, right? That's where the advertising part comes in. So I have another question, Arvin, and it's a little controversial, because I've seen it on on your comments. I've seen it, people spreading FUD, and also some of your Twitter comments. So people say that you're definitely on Forbes, right? You've been on feature on Forbes and everything. So people say that that was an article wherein you paid money for, and what's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, so that's so both. I get that for I guess articles, and then also speaking events too. So for speaking events, lots of them are paid right now in the NFT space for anyone who's a speaker.
Correct.
I've never paid a single one to speak at any events at this point. I actually have no problem with paying. I'm just saying, like, people have actually paid me to actually go speak to. So, so that's as far as the speaking engagement. And they can verify with the conference provider.
Correct.
Anyone wants to. But when it comes to publications, the specific publications you talk, so some publications, I get requests from people, like, for example, there's like Telegraph, there's what else just recently happened? There was like one big publications, I can't remember now, but like there's some that just like people come to me, and I have a publicist where I just basically give my opinions, and it gets published, and it's like lots of them too. But those specific ones like Forbes and USA Today, they are paid. I tell people like they are paid, and then people like, but why would you? But like, why is it like, so that must be like scam, or like, it's not. Like, people been paying to be on different platforms for years. Like, this is not, and actually, I think on USA Today, literally, I think twice or three times it reads, this is a sponsored content. So I don't know why people have any confusion around this being not sponsored, or like me not paying for this. Like, it literally says in the article, says like I have paid for that. And I would do again. Like, it's completely fine to me. It doesn't take away anything from my content, that like people loving it, and some people hate it too, but like the people that are loving it and they enjoy it, I want to be in front of I will, and I have money, I will pay to be in front of people That's completely fine in my book.
Exactly. I mean, it's like calling out Apple is a scam because it advertises on Twitter, right? That doesn't really make any sense, right? So I think it is we would want to show our faces. We would want to show our presence in the space. Even if it's NFTs, right? We want to show that hey, we're here, we're building this project, so check this out. We're creating something, so do check this out. And I think it's always been there. And us talking about the evolution of advertisement and boiling it back down to the dawn of human beings, and adding human nature into this, it just makes it more clear that that's how business is run. Because sometimes you would want to let people know and you want to target the audience, right? So that's a great topic. And now I want to digress a little bit and talk about famous people, right? Let's say there's a massive failure of Chris Brown's NFTs, which we all know. Now my question is, they have the clout, right? They have 115 million followers on Instagram. They have massive clout, people who love them. They've built it for years, even decades. Why aren't they able to sell their NFTs?
Yeah, so not to be named, but there are like people from like Hollywood that I've been in conversations with, like AAA Hollywood, not talking about, like someone just like, I don't know, just got into Hollywood for like, I don't know, some weird purpose. Like literally like people you watch movies like all the time, you know them for sure. They have like,
Correct.
lots of followers. So sometimes that's what they do. Like they trying to like do Web2 marketing. They're like, well, I have so many followers, I'm just gonna
Okay.
make a bunch of posts, and it doesn't
Okay.
work. So I think like one that I wasn't involved with, like Kevin Hart, just
Yeah.
recently did one and it just bombed, right? So and
Right.
correct me if I'm wrong, but I think like from what I've heard, I didn't even look into that project as much, but from what I've heard is that they didn't sell out, they didn't do really well. So it can happen if you don't have like the pieces, which are the narrative of the like the story of the project, the story of why you created the project, the presentation of your offer, like why your utilities are great, or what is the reason for people joining this project. The branding has to be on point, and then you need to have a community. You need to have Web2 community, Web3 community, both of them, and then you need to have like credibility, so like publications, NFT calendars, so on and so forth. So if you have all those pieces, you may still not sell out. Like it's still not sell out, but you definitely like don't sell out if you just not even go in that direction, right? And so that's what's happening with some of these people, is that like big names, but they don't really like follow the Web3 marketing, and they're just not successful. They could have the coolest art, like, or they could have the coolest utility, but all pieces have to be there. You can't just like randomly just launch in a Web2 fashion.
Correct. So, I mean, do you think there's also incredible passion that is required for you to be in the space? Because we all know Snoop Dogg is doing great, right? And he knows people in his Discord by their Discord usernames, right? So, don't you think it gets? I mean, if you're so much indulged into that project, and that's when you have incredible passion, you want to create a community, and the NFTs is the second part, right? You want to do the first part, the building the community. You think people with clout or celebrities they don't want to build that Web3 community, and they're just jumping to the selling out the project part?
Yeah, sometimes they just want to be relevant. So a team, for example, for them actually manages the whole thing, so they don't get to. Sometimes they don't even know what NFTs are, right? So like that's another thing. It's like they really don't have that much knowledge, but their team is telling them, hey, we want to be relevant. We want to. It would be like additional source of revenue. So let's just like launch an NFT project, and then so they go on and do that, right? And then but they don't have time. Like they already have, the reason they have like millions of followers just because they spend their time in like what they're really good at, which hasn't been the NFT. Otherwise they would be NFT like influencers, right? So they need to actually do that, which makes sense. Like there's not like I would never, like one of the things that I found is like in this space is like on Twitter, not the actual people, but like on Twitter, 80% of conversations about pointing at people saying like, you did this, you did that, right? Which makes no difference.
Got it.
Makes zero difference. If anything, we will go backward. But what we need instead is actually like, okay, what are you building? When is your collection? What problems are you solving? Like that, those kind of things. I think that would be like a lot more helpful in the Web3 space, which
Mhm.
I always talk about them on places I go, and I actually solve problems myself. I build things myself. I'm having my own collection coming out soon, in a
Correct.
few weeks. And so like that's the active role I like people to take versus like, looking at people be like, oh, they suck. And so, but going back to your question, yeah, so it's not enough to be a celebrity. It's not enough to just have lots of followers. You need to have all the pieces.
Correct. So, I also want to talk about, your personal brand, right, which is sold out NFTs. So,
Mhm.
uh, most important part is, let's say I'm starting a project. So, and you are charging, right? You are charging for it, and you're charging fair, which is a big the equivalent to the value that you're providing, and it is also a little more. It's a premium than other marketing agency that do not might not even do a great job. So I just start a project. I've hired a smart contract developer, and I've hired an artist, and so I just pay you the money. And do I just sit down and chill? Can I do that?
Yeah, no, like I don't have that kind of service. Yeah. But I have, for example, I'm a CMO for a project right now, for
Hmm.
one project currently. And
Got it.
I could probably just take on maybe one more, and
Hmm.
that's it. Like,
Correct. Correct.
I can probably do two at a time,
Hmm.
max. It's just hard to do a lot. But but the thing is, with that one where I'm a CMO, like chief marketing officer, I manage the marketing team. It takes a
Hmm.
lot of commitment from me, but
Correct.
it's still like there's like other people with other roles. I can't do it on my own. So like if it's a one man show, which is why like if it's a one man show and they ask me to become their CMO, it just doesn't make sense. I just be like, nope. Like I
Correct.
literally have an application for people to fill out,
Hmm.
and bunch of questions, and then I review it before actually even like accepting for conversation about CMO. So that's as far as like that, where I
Got it.
do things for them. But I noticed like, okay, majority of projects are not blue chip collections. Majority of projects are not like huge teams. And
Hmm.
so what can I help with them? And so I created a program called Sold Out NFT, where it's not a course. It's a more of a mastermind, and also has a live portion to it. So like it's
Okay.
like recorded videos and a live portion where I can advise them along the way. I do Twitter spaces with them. I give them
Yeah.
all resources I have, but
Yeah.
I'm not like their dedicated marketer, right? So that's the only
Correct.
difference.
Correct.
But I still literally like any resource that I have, like that I would give to as a CMO, like I would just give them as well, on a group level. And I say it's helpful, and it makes a difference because I worked with so many projects. I can, on call two calls we have every week, I work like I literally walk them through everything, like whether it be ads, whether it be how to do Twitter spaces,
Correct.
whether it be like, how to deal with your community when they say XYZ, things like that.
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
so that's how I can actually impact a lot of people,
Yeah.
without me being like the dedicated
Yeah.
dedicated person.
Exactly, Arvin. The reason I was, asking you this was, a lot of people have this budget. So, let's say they have a budget of 10 grand and they just allocate and they're done. So, you're basically saying that's not how communities are built, right? Because the founders have to be actively there in the Twitter spaces. Even when they're working with you, you do ask them to jump on Twitter spaces with them, talk about their project, what they're doing, and that
Yeah.
organic.
Yeah, and even so,
Mhm.
okay, so I'm probably in the Web3 space. I'm probably the largest ads advertiser, like paid advertiser, like in the entire. So if you actually someone goes and like with software and actually look to see what kind of promoted NFT promoted ads have the largest impression, like millions
Mhm.
in millions,
Mhm.
they're usually my students from the SON program, Sold Out NFTs
Got it.
program.
Got it.
And so I showed them how to do that, right? Now, even with all the love I have around paid advertising and just
Yeah.
that being my specialty, I say it's not enough. Like you can't just run ads and then just sit back and just,
Correct.
even though I literally have right now, I have ads that's going straight to the mint page and then people buying the NFTs, but that you can't just do that. You need to have still Twitter spaces, establish your brand. Like especially if you're like a legit brand, like you want to really like go in there and just have people roast you a few times on Twitter spaces. And then
Wow.
you get insight into like, okay, what's wrong with your utility? What's wrong with your messaging? What's wrong with your branding? And then you can actually fix them and then come back. And then just tell the community, be like, we took your opinion. We took like, obviously there's some shit opinions out there too. Like, people just tell you their feelings, but not talking about that. But sometimes they have like valid points. You go fix it, you come back and you tell them, be like, hey, I fixed it. Now they'd be super interested because you're literally like actually taking an active role in making this space better.
Yes.
So I think that's actually necessary. Like I literally had today someone in my program. He's been running like he had like I think he ran 10K worth of ads on
Okay.
Twitter over the past like
Okay.
30 days or 40 days. And then I'm like, and he's like, okay, conversion's gone down. I'm like, okay, why do you think that's the case? Because his ads were perfectly fine, but his
Mhm.
conversions for the like people actually become whitelisted has gone down. I'm like, okay, you need to go on Twitter Spaces, pitch your project, and so get a sense like, okay, what's wrong with your project? Like people thinking you're like lying, people thinking, for example, there was this casino project that I did marketing for, and a lot of people were saying like, you're talking about this casino in the metaverse that we're gonna get like profits from, but where is this casino? It doesn't exist, right? And then so they put an offer on Sandbox and they said, hey, like this is the place for the casino. Then people were like, okay, this is real, right? Things
Okay.
like that, you get it out of Twitter Spaces, conversations with people, like whether individually or on a group level.
Got it. Got it. Got it. Got it. So I think, doesn't it all come back to being more human? It's
Yeah,
just that, right?
it is. Yeah. And that's the thing is like, for even for my own project, I went in on a Solana space. So I'm launching a Solana blockchain. I went on a Solana space and I was like, hey guys, this is an idea. And like, now, I have like really credible people in my team, but I didn't tell them, right? Because I want people to just give me their actual opinion. I was like, hey, we have someone from fitness industry. I didn't say he's like a former Mr. Canada, right? But like, I wanted to see what people say. And then people were like, does he have any credentials? Like, does he have this? Does he have that? And I was like, yes, he does. Like, we're gonna list it on our website. Now that I know that, like I'm gonna list all of that, right? So like that's the approach you want to take. You just be really close to the market and the data versus all the stupid opinions that's out there, right? So
Yes. Yes.
saying this is wrong, that is wrong, this is scam, this is that. Like, who cares? Like, no one cares about opinions. Like actual things. Like if you go on a space and just like getting opinions from people say like, and you can go ask like influencers too, be like, yo, what's your like I do that with some of the projects I work with. Some of the influencers I know, I go tell them, I'd be like, hey, what do you think about this? And then I noticed, for example, for this project, everyone was like saying, who's on the team? I'm like, okay, so that's something they care about. Like we need to go on the team page. We need to make it
Yeah. Yeah.
amazing. Like put our LinkedIn in there, say like why we qualify for this specific project, why we qualify to
Mhm.
actually deliver on the utilities, like really build up on that. Like, or like, for example, there was for my project, I said it's going to be like in the fitness again program. And then they said like, how are you going to deliver fitness program to like 10,000 people? I was like, valid point. Let's go figure it out. Like, how are we going to do that? Right. And then we
Yeah.
figured
Yeah.
it out. So like things like that, that's important. But if I had ran ads and be like, here's a fitness program for 10,000 people, and people were thinking all the like, how are you going to deliver without me actually saying it in the ad,
Yeah.
then they
Yeah.
will stay away from the ad, right? Versus now in the ad, I'm actually going
Correct.
to say
Correct.
it. I'm
Correct.
like, here's how I'm going to do it, you know?
Got it, got it. So I think that's actually a great approach for marketing, definitely. And I might have to even look back at the podcast to pick some pointers, because I'm talking to you, but then there are a lot of things that I have in my mind, and I have to go look back, pick those pointers, and maybe even apply in what I'm doing. So yeah, making it clear, none of this is financial advice, because the next question I'm asking is just
Is a financial
Arvin
advice.
not financial advice. Yeah. So
Right.
how do we spot for people who want to flip or people who want to trade, how what are the indicators that people can look at the project? Is it the team? Is it the art? Is it the Discord members? What are the key indicators, you'd say?
Yeah, so in the past, like even like I want to say until like January of 2022, it was
Mm.
basically if you had enough people in your Discord, 30% of them would buy the NFTs. And that's how you would know like they're gonna be successful. Or like the whitelisters, like if you have enough whitelisters, you know they're gonna be successful. But now things have changed. So
Okay.
you gotta actually like the research is a little bit more elaborate. So it's not just like looking at the community, but you gotta look at see, hey, are they like do they have money? Right?
Okay.
Can they
Yeah.
what if they failed, like they didn't sell out? Can they deliver? And
Okay.
then because for example, like I'm partnered up with a VC, and if projects don't have money or if something happens, like they can funnel money into them, right? But like that's not the case for all projects. Sometimes projects when they don't sell out, they're done. They're completely done. Like they can't do anything. They can't deliver on anything because everything was just based on like the money that they were gonna actually raise, right? So that's important. It's just like see, do they have money? Like what like do they know if like something goes wrong, what are they gonna do, right? And what if they get hacked? Do they actually look into things like that? Do they pay attention to things like that, right? So
Correct.
all the aspects like that goes into marketing and just seeing if they're gonna do it and they're gonna be successful, right? So there's that.
Hmm.
The other side of things is like I have my own obviously projects that I see that they're gonna do well, so like I invest in them too. So it's like
Yeah.
insider
Yeah.
information. And then just like like alpha groups out there too. Like there are alpha groups. Like in my program, we kind of have our own alpha groups too. It's kind of weird, but it just got created one day, where like people talk about projects that they're gonna invest in and they're gonna ape
Yeah.
in, and like okay, cool, let's just go all in and do that, right? So you can do that too. But I think it's it's so that's one approach, right? Just doing all that research. And then the other approach is really like just investing in like blue chip collections. Because then they're always gonna have money, they're always gonna
Yeah.
deliver. So that's that. Like some projects I invested in, like I had lots of like alien friends, and I was buying them for like 500, $400, and I would flip them for 10K, and it was
Okay.
amazing. It was such an amazing time, and I didn't get to get all the merch and everything because I flipped them already, but they I think my sister still has some, but yeah, like that was like the type of projects like I would go for. I would just see, okay, what's trending, look at the volume, 24 hours, 7 days, things like that, and just see like if there are like indicators on that. But currently I mostly just invest in projects that are in my program
Okay.
because I see everything about them. I'm like,
Yes.
I have limited time, right? So I see everything about them. I'm like, okay, this makes sense. I'm gonna buy.
And you're closely working with the team, right? So you know what's happening
Yeah,
there.
exactly. So I know if they're not gonna sell out, obviously, no point investing too much money in it.
Correct. 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 So
Yeah.
also, Arvin, you were actually talking about getting hacked, right? Because
Yeah.
Zeneca got hacked and BAYC got hacked, and even the project that I was working with, uh, sometimes it got compromised and we had to shut everything down, and an entire thing on Discord, right? So what happens then? What happens to the projects that maybe collab land
Unfortunately,
gets hacked or something?
yeah. Unfortunately, like one of the large projects everyone was talking about that I was involved with got hacked. They lost 600K first few hours of like the mint was open.
Whoa!
And
Wait,
yeah,
600K?
yeah, yeah.
Okay.
And then we were like, okay, but like we can still like pull it. Like we told people,
Yeah.
we're gonna bring auditors, we're gonna bring like we tried everything like we could, but no one was
Okay.
touching us. Like
Got
everyone
it.
was still afraid. So unfortunately, in the Web3 space, if you get hacked, you're kind of like doomed.
Correct.
But if your wallet gets hacked, if your Discord gets hacked, people are okay. Like people will still come back and mint. But if your wallet gets hacked, that's like
Yeah.
kind of like
Yeah.
difficult to come back. Like that project never recovered.
Exactly. Exactly.
And it was very unfortunate because I had, first of all, I had a lot of investment in it. Second
Mhm.
of all, I was doing the marketing. Third, I just wanted them to be successful. They're really cool people, really cool project. Really
Correct.
like the community wanted them to be successful. Like there were people crying, literally like crying
Yeah.
their eyes
Yeah.
out on Twitter
Yeah.
Spaces, just saying like
Yeah.
how unfortunate that is. But that's just the way it
Correct.
is. Yeah.
So, because we're also coming to the end of our podcast, and I just wanted to ask you, how do you think regulations are going to play out? Because you know, if you know about the Indian taxing and everything, so the structure is a little bit dicey, and it's not a very crypto friendly environment here. And you see a diaspora of crypto natives moving to, you know, Dubai and Singapore, which is way more crypto friendly and
Yeah.
supports blockchain, right? So how do you think it's going to play out with NFTs?
Yeah, so NFT regulations, okay, so the more regulations we have, the less profit people will make as for traders. Like that's just what's gonna happen, right? So like
Mhm.
the reason that like a lot of people make a lot of profits just because of the uncertainty, right? So there's a lot of
Correct.
uncertainty. A lot of people don't touch things, but like people who have the courage, they go in and make a lot of money, right? So that's
Correct.
like one of
Correct.
the factors. So there's that. And then also there's been one of the projects I worked with, they got sued by the SEC.
Oh,
And yeah,
okay.
and then they don't even live in the US, which is kind of weird, but their audience is in the US. And so that project has been kind of like, so, oh, as they also got delisted from OpenSea because of that.
Okay.
And then so they went on a different platform. But
Mhm.
so now I don't know the outcome of that hearing with SEC and that project, but
Correct.
the moment SEC gets like one or two projects like sued and then they have like something on them where like they're
Yeah.
successful,
Yeah.
unfortunately that will be a cascade of events, like lots of projects will go down. So that's just not a good thing. So like if there's any way people can just like support projects that are like in that situation, like they should do it. Like investing money in them, investing like bringing lawyers for them, like whatever it is. Because um uh like I mean projects are there like on their own, like but like SEC will just go where money is, right? So like they want to like they want to they want to make it harder, and we don't want that, right? So there's that. So that's one side of things with NFTs. Now there are going to be regulations for cryptocurrencies that's coming
Mhm.
out for the US. So
Mhm.
the bills, there are like bills out there, like they're actually like it's public. People can actually go read them. They're done by someone from I believe actually someone I think it's like a chair from SEC and like a bunch of other people. So there's nothing wrong with the SEC. I'm just saying that's what they do. And so and then I think there are two ladies that are involved in that team that are actually
Okay.
curating like the regulations and everything for people. And it's like cool things too. Like one of the things I read in there, it's like, hey, if you have like for example cryptocurrencies, unless you actually exit out, you're not going to get taxed on it, which is cool. Like that makes sense, right? But until
Correct.
then,
Correct.
I think people should do what I'm doing also, where I'm actually
Mhm.
going to move to Dubai, like because they're
Okay.
just a lot more forward thinking into things. Like for example, in
Yeah.
Canada, give you guys personal experience. My bank the other day was telling me, it's like, do you have anything to do with cryptocurrencies? I was like, none of your business, first of all. And then, but then they're like, we don't like that. Like for exchange, we wouldn't work with you if you have anything to do with cryptocurrencies. So that's like a really big deal, right? So if you have like lots of money in the account, right, and then they just like all of a sudden like you get frozen, that's not a good feeling, right? You know what I mean? Like so,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
that's one of the reasons like I I I would encourage people to just go where like you're wanted, you're welcome, versus like you have your like contribution in cryptocurrencies, and then you go into countries where like I guess China, for example, is like the exact opposite, right? They don't like
Exactly.
it, so then I mean don't go there,
Exactly.
like so.
Totally. Totally. 100%. Because also, when are becoming wealthier, you do get a lot of attention, right? A lot of attention from even CRA. So I think you're in Canada, so the Canadian Revenue Agency, and people do come after you. People do want a piece of it, and things like this happen. And I'm really bullish on this. I'm really bullish on the entire crypto space, and also been reading the book, Balaji's Network State, right? And it shows how startup economies are going to shape the future and things like that. But then your points are really great, right? I still have one last question, right? So what do you think about the bear market?
Yeah, I
Just your
think
thoughts.
it's
Mhm.
okay. So, okay, I and lots of my friends, we've lost anywhere from 200 to 600K each.
Okay.
So, I mean, it was painful. Like, I'll tell you, like, real life example. It was this, I was actually a keynote speaker at this event in Cyprus, and it was right around the Luna crash. And I remember the moment that the talk was over, I just wanted to just like, I literally just like, I just looked down and I started just like walking off the stage. I wasn't even thinking about like people at this stage or anything. I was just like, the whole crypto was almost just like
Yeah.
crumbled, like the whole crypto
Yeah.
space.
Yeah.
There was literally like that feeling around it where I was just like, I just wanted to go in like closet and just like close the door and just hide. Like that's how bad that was. Like not just like losing money, but also just like it just everything felt like just like a disaster. Like everything just like it literally just felt like it just like crumbled, right? So that was my personal experience. But having said that, we all came out of it. Like it's all good, you know. We just adapted, and then now we have like new strategies for everything.
Correct.
And also I'm gonna do a Twitter space with a data company to get like the current stats of things. But in January, we were having 500 projects entering the market every day. That's not good. That's just like, I mean, it could be good if we had enough people onboarding from Web2 to Web3 space. That would be awesome, right? But we didn't. So that was not good in that sense because there's just way too many projects, like not as many people to buy up. So this bear market, actually what it did was just a lot of these projects now shying away from coming to the market, and they should, if they just thinking this is just some cash grab, or it's like if they don't have like the determination, the grit, the resiliency to just like go through all these like different ups and downs of things, and everything happens, like they're just gonna point at people or like blame their influencers, blame their marketers, blame their team, blame their like I don't know, mother and father, whatever that they whoever they want to blame, right? If that's the kind of people they are, they should just not come to the space. They should just, you know, that's not for them. This is a very volatile space. And maybe in the future it will be less volatile, but maybe it won't. Just like how startups are. Like if startups don't always, you know, become successful, like a lot of them fail, and like fail like miserably. Like people become homeless. Like that's like the real data. I think people are just kind of like oblivious to. Where like that happens. Like there are like go to like freaking Hollywood and just see how many homeless like actor and actresses are there, right? So like they just had like big dreams, but nothing happened with those big dreams, right? And just that's just life. You either like make it happen or you don't. Like this, you know, black and white in that sense. But I think so my I guess my take on bear market, even though I hated it, like it was just like it was very depressing, honestly. Like it took a lot from me, like just talking to a really good friend of mine to just like keep it up, like you know, just like have that like good energy just throughout. And I believe right now we're kind of over it. Like we don't like the at least the emotions are not there. Like we know like hey, this is the whatever it is, and like
The volatility
now it's like building. So it did a bunch of things. It just cleaned up all the people and like projects that weren't fit for this space. And then also it's like projects that are not going to be like, you know, good and like actually like putting effort into things. They're just not coming to the space because they're like freaking like scary. And then also I think we also got to between ourselves, we got to know who is like in this space for just like the ups and downs, right? So like some people
I'm in it for the tech.
Yeah, exactly. Some people just disappeared, and then you're like, wait, what
Yeah,
happened? Like, I thought you were
yeah,
like really
yeah.
big into this, like you were super bullish. And so so I think that's also cool. Like, we got to see like I never, like, for myself, I can speak. I never even a second I thought like, oh, I'm gonna do like something else, or I'm gonna like leave this space. I just thought like, I was like, okay, this sucks. It just feels really bad. But let's figure it out, And that's the space that we want to have, like people coming in to build and innovate. So I think that's another
Correct.
thing that's going to happen because of all this difficulty. Like we all just were forced to innovate. We all were forced to like come up with new things, and that's perfect. That's just like really healthy thing. It's almost like natural selection that just happened, like survival of the fittest.
Yeah.
So perfect. Like all the good things are gonna stay, and then like it's gonna be more of the good things. So yeah, that's my take on.
Perfect, perfect. I've actually spoken to a lot of people about the bear market, and you pointing out that it's natural selection, and it happens, right? The cycles always happen, and the fittest always survive. And even if you're not the fittest, and you want to be in the space, you eventually become the survivor, and
Yeah,
that just blows my mind, right? So it is, Arvin, it was amazing conversation, sir. It was amazing conversation. Got a lot of pointers about, you know, the entire NFT space. And, you know, I mean, I feel my perspective has kind of changed, right? It's not look at projects as just images being sold, right? It's there's more to it. And as you know, if you're a founder watching this, I'd say beyond Twitter spaces, man, beyond Twitter spaces, talk to your community members, connect with them in a more human way. I think that's what community is all about, right? And also do follow Arvin Khamseh, right? He's very active on Twitter, and also has a blue check mark if that's what is important for you.
yeah,
But
exactly.
yeah, any last pointers,
Right.
Arvin? You want to share?
No, just yeah, definitely. Just reach out if there's anything that you guys working on. So it's Arvin KNFT, ARVIN KNFT, on all socials, but on Twitter and LinkedIn, I'm the most active.
Yep,
Instagram
yep.
too, but don't go there as much. And then yeah, it's just way too many things, right? So and then also with my program too, if they want to just learn about it,
Mhm.
soldoutnfts.io. So it's soldnfts.io. They can learn about it with some of them at least. And
Perfect, perfect.
they want to verify I worked with like 400 projects. There are links into my Upwork and Fiverr and all these
Yeah,
other
yeah.
platforms. They can see reviews, everything. So
For sure, for sure. Again, it was an amazing conversation, and I'll see you around, Arvin. I'll see you around in the spaces.
yeah,
I'll
of
see you around in the Discord then. Yeah,
course. See you soon.
yeah. All right then. Thank you so much, sir.